My name is Sophia Bennett. I'm 34, a single mom who thought I knew my family, until my daughter's cries tore through our dinner table like a thunderclap. We were passing the roast chicken when my brother, Mike, rolled his eyes and scoffed. "She's just faking it, Sophia. Kids do that." My mother, Ellen, didn't even glance up, her fork scraping the plate in a rhythm that screamed indifference. I stood frozen, my heart pounding, as I watched my 6-year-old Lily clutching her leg, her face drained of color, twisted in anguish. A wave of betrayal crashed over me, shattering the trust I'd held in them. How could they not see her suffering? Before I share how one question in the emergency room exposed a truth that broke my heart. Drop a comment below. Let me know where you're watching from, and hit that subscribe button if you've ever felt your family dismissed your pain, or someone you love's. Trust me. What I learned in that hospital room unraveled everything I thought I knew about us. To understand why that moment at the dinner table cut me like a knife twisting in my chest, you need to know my family's story. As a single mom raising my 6-year-old daughter, Lily, I've always been the one holding our fractured family together. My parents, Ellen and Robert, and my older brother, Mike, lived just a few miles away in Portland. But the emotional distance between us? It's always felt like an ocean. Growing up, Mike was the golden child, captain of the high school football team, charming, always basking in Mom's glowing pride. I was the quiet one, the planner, the one making sure the bills were paid and the fridge was stocked when Dad's long hours at his law firm kept him away. No matter how hard I tried, I lived in Mike's shadow, the one who overthought things while he could do no wrong. Mom would beam when Mike scored a touchdown, but when I aced my exams or organized the family's holiday dinners, she'd just nod and say, "That's nice." That night, at Mom's house, we gathered for our monthly family dinner, a ritual meant to mend our strained ties. The dining room glowed with the warmth of Mom's roast chicken. Its savory aroma filled the air. The table was set with her favorite blue china, the kind she reserved for special occasions. The clink of glasses, the hum of small talk. It created a fragile sense of togetherness. But I noticed Lily, usually a burst of giggles, was unusually quiet. She limped slightly after a fall at the park earlier that day. I'd checked her leg, thinking it was just a bruise. She'd been so brave, insisting she was fine. But her subdued demeanor tugged at my instincts. Then, halfway through passing the roast chicken, she let out a piercing scream. Her small hands clutched her leg, her face pale and contorted in agony. My heart stopped. The room blurred around me. Mike rolled his eyes, his voice dripping with dismissal as he leaned back in his chair. "She's faking it, sis. Kids do that for attention." Mom didn't even look up. Her fork scraped against the plate in a rhythm that screamed indifference, as if Lily's cries were just background noise. I stared at my daughter, her tiny body trembling, tears streaming down her cheeks, and a wave of betrayal crashed over me. How could they not see her suffering? My hands shook as I scooped her up, her sobs muffled against my shoulder. "We're going to the hospital," I declared, my voice sharp with resolve. Mike snorted, his smirk infuriatingly familiar. "You're overreacting as usual." Mom finally spoke, her tone flat, dismissive. "Don't make a scene, Sophia. She'll be fine." But I was already halfway to the door, Lily's weight anchoring me to the one truth I knew. My daughter needed me, and I wouldn't let their doubts stop me. The drive to Portland General Hospital was a blur. City lights streaked past like tears in the rain-soaked night. Lily's whimpers from the back seat cut through the silence like a blade. Each soft cry twisted my heart tighter. My hands gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white, mind racing with questions. Had I missed something obvious? Was I wrong to trust my instincts over my family's dismissal? I glanced at Lily in the rearview mirror. Her small frame curled against the car seat, clutching her leg, her face pale under the streetlights. It's okay, baby, I whispered, my voice trembling. Mommy's got you. But inside, I was unraveling, doubting myself for not acting sooner, for letting Mike's words and Mom's indifference shake my confidence. At the hospital's emergency room, fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. A cold, sterile glow filled the crowded waiting area. The smell of antiseptic stung my nose as I carried Lily through the sliding doors, her sobs muffled against my shoulder. A nurse named Clara with kind eyes but a brisk manner led us to an exam room. She pressed gently on Lily's leg. The sharp cry that followed made my stomach lurch. Clara's face grew serious, her brow furrowed as she studied Lily's pain-stricken expression. Why did she walk on this? Her voice sharp with concern, cutting through the hum of hospital machinery. I froze. The question hit me like a punch to the gut. What do you mean? I stammered, my heart pounding. Clara ordered an X-ray. The results came back like a verdict. A hairline fracture in Lily's tibia, worsened by her walking on it after the fall at the park. This should have been caught earlier, Clara said. Her eyes softened, but her words were firm. Walking on it could have caused permanent damage, misalignment, chronic pain. My stomach churned as the truth sank in. My family's refusal to believe Lily had delayed her care, turning a treatable injury into something far worse. Guilt flooded me. Had I failed her by not pushing harder? But anger surged just as fiercely. I'd begged them to take her seriously, my voice breaking at the dinner table, and they'd brushed me off like I was the one being dramatic. As Clara prepped Lily for a cast, her small hand squeezed mine. I sat in the sterile waiting room, the plastic chair cold against my back. Mike's words echoed in my head. She's faking it. Mom's fork scraping her plate replayed like a cruel loop. My phone buzzed. A text from Mike. You good? Probably just a sprain. The casual dismissal made my blood boil. I didn't respond. The hospital's antiseptic smell clung to my clothes as I held Lily's hand. I promised her she'd be okay, even as I wondered if I'd ever forgive my family for letting her suffer. An hour later, Mom and Mike arrived at Portland General Hospital. Their footsteps echoed in the sterile corridor as they entered the waiting room. The space felt suffocating. The fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows on their faces, a mix of concern and defensiveness that made my chest tighten. Mom clutched her purse, her knuckles white. She asked, "Is Lily okay?" Her voice was shaky, but there was no apology in her tone, only a hint of unease. I nodded, my throat so tight I could barely speak. "She has a fractured tibia," I said, forcing the words out. "She needs a cast for 6 weeks, maybe more." Mike shifted uncomfortably. His sneakers squeaked against the linoleum floor. "Kids fall all the time," he muttered, avoiding my eyes. "How were we supposed to know it was that bad?" His words lit a fuse inside me, and I couldn't hold back anymore. "You were supposed to listen to me," I snapped. My voice echoed off the bare walls, startling a nearby couple. "I told you she was in pain, Mike. I begged you to look at her, Mom, and you called her a liar. You didn't even look up from your plate." Mom's eyes filled with tears. Her hand trembled as she reached for a tissue, but she stayed silent, her lips pressed into a thin line. Mike crossed his arms, his jaw tight. "You're blowing this out of proportion, Sophia," he said, his voice sharp. "It's not like we ignored her on purpose. You're always so dramatic." "Dramatic?" I repeated, my voice breaking as the weight of their dismissal crashed over me. "My daughter was screaming in pain, and you told me she was faking it. You ignored her because it was easier than dealing with it. You ignored me because I'm always the one overreacting, right?" The silence that followed was oppressive, broken only by the distant hum of the hospital's air conditioning and the faint beep of a monitor down the hall. I could feel the eyes of strangers in the waiting room, but I didn't care. The hurt was too raw, the betrayal too deep. Mom finally whispered, "I didn't know it was that serious." her voice barely audible, her gaze fixed on the floor, but her words felt hollow, like an excuse that couldn't undo the damage. Mike opened his mouth to speak, then closed it, his shoulders slumping as if the weight of his own words had finally hit him. The nurse, Clara, called me back to Lily's room. My daughter lay with a temporary splint, her small face still pale, but calmer now. I turned to leave, my heart pounding, and glanced back at Mom and Mike. Standing there in the harsh light, their guilt palpable, but not yet enough to bridge the chasm between us. "We'll talk later," I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me, knowing this confrontation was only the beginning. The next morning, with Lily resting in her new cast, her soft snores filling the quiet of my small Portland apartment, I demanded answers. Mom and Mike arrived just after breakfast, their faces drawn as they stepped into my living room. The air was thick with unresolved tension. The faint hum of traffic outside barely masked the weight of our silence. I sat on the edge of my worn couch. The morning light filtered through the blinds, casting long shadows across the hardwood floor. "Why didn't you believe her?" I asked, my voice steadier now, though my hands trembled as I clutched my coffee mug. Mom sat across from me, her eyes fixed on her hands. She twisted her wedding ring until her knuckles whitened. I didn't want to make a fuss," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "When I was a kid, my own mother ignored my broken arm for days, saying I was being dramatic. It swelled up so badly I couldn't move my fingers, but she told me to tough it out. I guess I learned to brush things off, to keep the peace." Her confession hit me like a wave. The pain in her voice echoed the hurt I felt for Lily. Mike shifted in his chair, his sneakers scuffed against the floor, his face uneasy. "And I ignored a knee injury in high school," he said, his voice low, almost reluctant. "I twisted it during a game, but Mom said it was nothing, just a sprain. I didn't want to seem weak, so I played through the pain for weeks, limping, hiding it. Maybe I was doing the same to Lily, thinking she needed to toughen up." Their words painted a painful picture, a family pattern of dismissing pain to avoid vulnerability, passed down like a toxic heirloom through generations. I saw it so clearly now. Their dismissal of Lily wasn't just about her. It was about their own unhealed wounds, their fear of facing weakness. My heart ached with the weight of it, but the anger still burned. "That doesn't make it okay," I said, my voice soft, but firm, cutting through the quiet hum of the room. Lily deserved better. She's 6 years old, not a soldier proving her strength. And I deserved better. I deserved to be heard when I told you she was hurting. Mom nodded. Tears streamed down her face, leaving faint trails of mascara on her cheeks. "You're right, Sophia," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I failed you both." I saw her crying, and I didn't want to believe it was serious, because that would mean I'd failed as a grandmother. Mike looked away, his jaw tight, but I saw the flicker of guilt in his eyes, a crack in his usual bravado. For the first time, I understood that their actions came from a place of brokenness, not malice, but the hurt was still raw, a wound that wouldn't close with words alone. I set my mug down, the clink against the coffee table sharp in the silence. "We can't keep doing this," I said, meeting their eyes. "Lily can't grow up in a family where pain is ignored. I won't let her." Mom reached out. Her hand hovered, as if afraid to touch me. Then she pulled back. "I don't know how to fix this," she admitted, her voice trembling. "But I want to try." The sincerity in her eyes gave me a flicker of hope. But I knew this was only the start of a long road to rebuilding trust. Over the next few days, we had painful, but necessary, conversations in the quiet of my Portland apartment. The soft glow of lamplight cast a warm circle around us as we sat in my cramped living room. The air still carried the weight of our hospital confrontation. But there was a new undercurrent, hope. Fragile, but real. Mom came over first, her eyes red-rimmed from crying, her usual composure frayed at the edges. "I'm so sorry, Sophia," she said, her voice trembling as she sat across from me, clutching a cup of tea I'd made her. "I should have listened to you about Lily. I should have seen her pain. I was so caught up in keeping things calm. I failed you both." Her apology felt like a balm, but it didn't erase the sting of her indifference at the dinner table. Mike followed the next day, his usual confidence replaced by a rare vulnerability. "I'm sorry, Soph," he said quietly, standing awkwardly in my doorway, hands stuffed in his pockets. "I was wrong to call Lily a faker. I didn't realize how much it hurt you, or her." His words were simple, but the crack in his voice told me he meant it. They offered to cover Lily's medical bills and physical therapy, a gesture that felt like an attempt to fix things the only way they knew how. I took a deep breath, steadying myself against the familiar urge to just let it go. "I don't need your money," I said, my voice firm, but not unkind. "I need you to believe us, to listen when we tell you something's wrong. That's what matters." To my surprise, Mom nodded, her hands trembling as she set her tea down with a soft clink against the saucer. "I don't want Lily to grow up thinking her pain doesn't matter," she said, her voice breaking. "I want to break this cycle, Sophia. I suggested family therapy. Would you be open to it?" The idea caught me off guard, but I saw the sincerity in her eyes, the desperation to make things right. "We can try," I agreed, and we scheduled our first session for the following week. Mike took a step forward, too. He showed up at our apartment with a stack of Lily's favorite storybooks. He sat cross-legged on her bedroom floor to read to her. He asked about her feelings, her fears, in a way I'd never seen before. His usual bravado softened by guilt. I watched from the doorway, a cautious hope blooming in my chest, though I knew trust would take time to rebuild. One evening, as I tucked Lily into bed, her small arms wrapped around me in a fierce hug. "You believed me, Mommy," she whispered, her voice muffled against my shoulder, her cast, a bulky reminder of what we'd been through. That moment, more than any apology, anchored me to why I'd fought so hard for her. Her trust was a lifeline, a reminder that I'd done something right, even when my family hadn't. We weren't healed yet, but the cracks in our family were starting to mend. One honest conversation at a time, and I held on to that fragile promise of something better. 3 months later, our family is different. Not perfect, but undeniably transformed. As if the weight of silence has finally lifted from our Portland home. Therapy has been a grueling journey, peeling back layers of avoidance we didn't even know we carried, like dust settled into the corners of my small apartment. The soft hum of our weekly family dinners now feels warmer, filled with the clink of Mom's blue china, and Lily's giggles echoing through the room. Mom has changed in ways I never expected. She checks in with Lily every day, sits cross-legged on the living room rug to ask about her leg, her school, her dreams, no longer brushing off her feelings with a quick nod. Her eyes, once distant at that fateful dinner, now hold a quiet determination to listen, to really hear us. Mike, who once hid behind his easy charm, has become Lily's biggest cheerleader. He shows up to her physical therapy sessions with a backpack full of her favorite storybooks. He celebrates every small step she takes with a grin that mirrors her own. As for me, I've learned to speak up when I feel ignored. My voice, steady now, no longer swallowed by guilt or the fear of being too dramatic. I've set boundaries, clear and firm, and to my surprise, They've been respected. Last week, Lily's cast came off, and the moment she took her first wobbly steps without pain, her smile lit up the hospital room like sunlight breaking through clouds. I stood there, tears in my eyes, knowing that every fight, every tear, every sleepless night had been worth it to see her whole again. That hospital visit 3 months ago taught me a brutal truth. Pain ignored can break more than bones. It can fracture the trust that holds a family together. But it also showed me that honesty, raw and unfiltered, can mend those cracks, one conversation at a time. I've realized something. Family isn't just about love. It's about showing up, believing someone when they say they're hurting, and fighting for them, even when it's hard. We're still learning, still stumbling, but we're building something new, something rooted in trust rather than silence. Have you ever had to fight to be heard by your family, to make them see your pain or someone you love's? Drop your story in the comments below. I'd love to hear how you found your voice. If this story touched you, hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life tales about finding strength through pain. And please, share this with someone who might need a reminder that their pain matters, because believing someone's pain isn't just a gesture. It's the first step to healing, sometimes even more than our own.